thermal power plants. It's building a 1200 megawatt hydro power plant in Sikkim and a 2640 thermal power plant in Andhra Pradesh. We sold Lilliput, our investment in Lilliput, and we sold our investment in another company called Capital Foods, which makes these sauces, Ching's Secret. It also has a noodle brand, Smith & Jones, and Ching's Secret, so that's another company. We have invested in a very interesting color cosmetics business called Faces. That again was a Canadian company. We bought that company, we took a controlling stake, and then introduced that brand in India. So now you hopefully should see it in organized retail, so modern retailing in India. Blue Foods, which is a restaurant business where we own several restaurant chains, including Copper Chimney, Spaghetti Kitchen, Bombay Blues, Noodle Bar, a Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, it's a coffee chain, and Gelato Italiano, which is an Italian gelato ice cream brand. Which others? Region Power Tech we talked about. Ticona. Ticona is a very interesting wireless broadband internet business. In fact, it's the largest independent broadband internet company today in the country. It also bid for the WiMAX licenses and has in 5 circles. Global Hospitals, it's today the top 5 hospital chain in the country with about 2,000 beds, 1,500 under operation and 500 under construction. It's largely present in South and West India, 2 in Hyderabad, 1 hospital in Chennai, another in Bangalore, another in Bombay, and 1 more coming up in Kolkata. So this is a broad kind of, I would say,
You seem to be like under-invested in technology.
So, one of the things with technology is that a lot of the technology in India's services are more focused on the export markets. And one of the things that we believe we don't understand very well is to try and forecast how other global economies are going to do, because the Indian company's business is substantially dependent upon how the US markets or the European markets or other markets will behave, and that becomes a little bit difficult for us to kind of predict. The other thing is that if it becomes too commodity type in its construct, so it's a pure, if I might pardon me for using the word body shopping kind of an entity, you're really doing just labor arbitrage. There is no real value add that's happening in the business. For us then, therefore, to invest in such a business, we're really taking a commodity view. And how long would Indian labor costs be cheaper than, say, other markets like Philippines or China or wherever else. So that again becomes a little bit more difficult for us to participate in that kind of an investment. We really don't see ourselves being able to add any value into those situations.
Basically, since our focus is on India and mostly India consumption and India infrastructure, IT, which is 90% of the times IT outsourcing, does not sort of fall into our mandate.
But to add, we've investment in a e-tailing business called Future Bazaar. This is Future E-commerce Private Limited, part of the Future Group. And our investment in that portal is really to actually build what we believe will be India's largest e-tailing venture. Now, one of the challenges of e-commerce in India, as we all know, is the back-end fulfillment for all kinds of products that we are able to sell on the internet. And that's where the group, because it has such a large brick-and-mortar presence across this country, can leverage its back-end supply chain to fulfill all kinds of orders that it receives on the internet. So this is a young business. We've been investing heavily in technology to build the platform, and now we're looking to hopefully build out. The challenge of any kind of internet business in India is that there's very little broadband penetration in this country. So as per Government of India, we're seeing 10 million broadband subscribers, and that they define as 256 kbps and above. And we all know what 256 actually translates into when we try and serve the net. We believe broadband internet, which is 1 Mbps and above, is about 3 million customers. But that also is a very, very small ecosystem there. As India comes to hopefully the 100 million mark in broadband internet penetration with 1 Mbps plus kind of bandwidth speeds, we think there is a huge opportunity in the whole e-commerce space, and that only time will tell how long that will take. But I think there is a market and an opportunity over there for.
Thanks. What is the average ticket size of investment?
We generally would not do anything, the hard, I would say, floor would be about $10 million, but our sweet spot would be $30 to $50 million. So we like to invest in businesses where over a period of time we can invest at least 20, 30, 40 million, over a 2-year period.
Okay, we've done around that is.
Yeah, so I would say if I see in the next 12 to 24 months, I can put in $30 to $40 million to work. I'm very happy with that. Yeah, that's right.
And the prediction for the sector also is significant.
Yeah, life sciences again, we don't understand that business very well, but on the consumption side, so branded formulations, distribution businesses, those kind of things clearly are more interesting to us.
How do you mention about VC type of funding?
So our VC, like we said, is large platform deals. So Ticona was one such deal where we actually, over a period of time, that company has now invested, over the last 13 months, we invested $270 million in the company. Building out a broadband business across 36 cities requires a lot of capital and infrastructure.
So even deal size is same for early stage companies?
Yeah, so even if it's early stage, it's got to be a very scalable opportunity where in a 3 to 5 year period we are seeing substantial size and scale being built.
So even in region, for instance, which was so our startups are not the traditional startups. See, I'll give you a sense of how the region deal happened to give you a sense of what our startups were like. So the deal there was we had identified this entrepreneur to go and acquire a German company. He wanted to acquire a German company for its technology. That deal didn't happen. That technology went to a Chinese company called Golden Wind, which is the biggest supplier of wind turbines and owner of wind turbines in China. But then we developed comfort. We knew the business. Then he said, using the same technology, we'll build a plant. So we funded him to build a manufacturing plant. So it wasn't a traditional startup. We knew that the business is there. We had vetted the technology.
Yeah, thanks. We've kind of run out of time. So one last question.
For this question for Rupa mentioned about this being the decade of India, and when you mentioned the education gap or the right skill gap as probably the biggest challenge. What's your view on the policy items that you're saying? You got the Prime Minister of the stature of Dr. Singh, and the reality is nothing's happening. And if you look around at the opposition offer anything worthwhile, I really don't think so. So don't you see that as probably a bigger challenge going forward to achievement of the elections that are made up?
Yeah, I think that the conversations that we've been having of late point more towards frustration over policy stagnation. So I think probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, there was a lot of optimism about the discussions of what would be opened, what would be supported through policy. And a lot of that is just about 5 bills went through all at once, all of them just got stuck, and now there's just stagnation. And I don't see any change in the next couple of years, and the conversation has kind of just stopped. So I think that it's kind of a wait and see in terms of policy, as with most of the reforms, right? We talked about it, and there was a lot of optimism again about a year and a half ago, but we haven't seen much actually changing. So I think there's a lot that's happening on the ground, but worry about the policy overhang. So uncertainty about what's going to happen in the future, but basically no discussion for huge change now. There's discussion at advisory councils and so on about skills gap, vocational training, centers of excellence. But in terms of hard policy changing, I don't see, at least from the conversations we've had with policymakers, it seems that everything's on hold until the next term.
Okay, thank you.
No, I thank you for a very interesting conversation. Thank you, thank you for being here. These sessions are absolutely helpful. I think the perspective and presentation that Rupa gave was very insightful. I think for some of the entrepreneurs here, there's some huge takeaways in terms of where the opportunities would be, especially as far as the domestic market would go. And how the demographics shape up into revenue growth. and Thanpal's conversation about how Everstone is structured and what they look for in the teams in terms of the 5 qualities of an entrepreneur. I think those 5 qualities would remain the same for any industry, to any place you go to in terms of those 5 qualities. So thank you for each member of the panel being here. Thank you for being here this evening. A round of applause for everyone. Thank you.
I think that